Hello and welcome to the week zeroth week Precap recap for REL 10F. I'm KS Blue.
And I am your friendly neighborhood admin, NinjaPirateAssassin.
That came out as Ninja Pirate Ass. Just to warn you.
It's not the worst thing I've been called.
I could probably say the same, to be honest. Okay, so we are covering division REL 10F, which I think is one of the most interesting divisions in REL right now. To give an idea of our credentials, I am oh man, I need to get back into this. I need to remember I'm not supposed to be swearing constantly. But no, those are not my credentials. My credentials are that I've been playing for 4 or 5 seasons as a dwarf coach. I have won 3 different Losers Cups from the various one-day tournaments. I was a semi-finalist for the very first Apprentice League. You know what? I've played in a lot of Rebel things. I'm a pretty decent Blood Bowl coach, I think, and I've been doing recaps for a while. Ta-da!
Okay, I can tell I'm going to keep mine a lot shorter. I play Rats in Div 1, and I have for several seasons. Currently on hiatus, but most notably coach of the Eat Man Things, REL 1's.
Honestly, I think it was better for its brevity compared to my rambling. Okay, so that's us. What we are going to do tonight is we're going to look at every team in the division, such as they are, and then we are going to make predictions for the Week 1 games. We may as well go through the teams in order, and the very first team in the list is Space Lions Hella's Kitchen, which is a Norse team. We will Ragnarok your mouth.
And right off the bat, we're starting with a plus strength Berserker, which is always nice.
Yes, it is. This team has a plus strength Berserker. It also has a Mighty Blow Berserker. It has both ults. One of them got an early MVP, it looks like, and it has the famed Fend Lineman. No dirty player, but you know, I'm guessing that's what this one is going to be. Like Grimmer Largan. Son.
I'm not even going to attempt names because that seems like futility in and of itself. To me, I think if you're going to go Fend on a lineman, it's because you're going to go Fend on a lot of linemen. Fend is one of those skills that having one of doesn't really get you much, but having 4 or 5 of gets you a lot. And it's, to me, it's a good skill, but it's not a skill that I normally would take just as a general rule, just because, again, I think you need to have a lot of it to get use out of it. It's the sort of thing I might throw as a 5th skill on a ball carrier or something like that. But I could definitely see in a scenario with Norse where you might put it on all 3 of your line of scrimmage linemen, for example.
I could see that for sure. The team also has a single runner and no thrower, as is the Norse way. It has a lot of good development from the Greenhorn. This is a Greenhorn division. This development did not come from nowhere. It's easy to see that it's close to a Yeti level up. It's close to a Ulf level up. It's close to a runner level up. There's a lot of good SBP on this team, and it will quickly hit like 6 skills in a couple of matches.
Yeah. Development wise, are you a fan of guard first on your ulfs? You go a different direction.
I would almost certainly take block first on an ulf. That might be a little bit boring, but I feel like on Norse, part of the big advantage is they have a ton of block. And block on a strength 4 player is just so much better.
I take a different approach. Because you have block on the rest of the team, I think you can afford to not run block right away on the Ulfs.
Yeah.
Because unlike something like Chaos, where you have to deal
Mm-hmm.
with a whole lot of 1 and 9s, we only have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with a couple. It's less bad. And I feel like Norse's big downside early is they do get a little bit out punched by the stronger teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like early guard on your Alps go a long way to mitigate that problem.
Okay, so
So like I would go guard block probably as a first two, and if you were of mind, you could go mighty blow first on one of them, but I don't think that's necessary for Norse's. You might do it more in like I say, a Chaos Warrior or something like that.
okay, so I disagree, and here is why. I think there is a good argument for not taking block first on Ulf. You might want to take mighty blow, or there might be another option I'm not thinking of. I do not think guard first is a great choice, simply because guard is not that good without block. A strength 4 player with guard still does not have block, so it just gets blitzed, and that it just becomes a blitz target. Especially on Norse, where everything else has block. So you blitz away the guard, which is the easiest thing to knock down, and then there's no more guard you have to worry about. Having said that, I do think block into guard, like I think those being the 2 first level ups, is a good call. Yeah. I think this is a pretty good looking team. By the way, I'm pretty sure all of these are food puns. Like Norse themed food puns, although I'm not sure what Frig Newton's is. But potato.
Big Newtons are a cookie.
Oh, okay then. Potato Loki with pesto. Hot apple vigar. Forsetti spaghetti. Yeah, these are all. Oh, and all of the linemen are beer. That makes sense. Well, no, they aren't, though, because one of them is Clam Balder? You know, anyway, they're great names. You did good, Space Lion. This is what I expect from an experienced coach. I don't care about the rest of the things. Your name game is A+. Anything else to add before we move on?
I don't think so. Like I said, the one curiosity will be how much fend he goes for on his lineman. Other than that, I think it'll be pretty standard.
That does feel sort of where this is heading right now. Okay. The next team is a massive 1290 TV Chaos team, coached by Incesticide? Primal Concrete Sledge. War for territory! And this team has 2 level 3 goats on it.
Yep, I can't say anything bad about any of the level ups he's taken anywhere.
No, I completely agree. He has an early dedicated killer. He has 2 block goats. Excuse me. One of whom has guard, and he has a wrestle goat. One more level up for tackle on either the killer or the wrestle guy, and I mean this looks really good.
Also looks like he's spreading touchdowns around to get these levels, just looking at the Chaos Warrior development.
It does look like that indeed.
Which is absolutely what you should do as early Chaos. You need to get a level on basically every player as soon as you can.
Okay, and
they have spread it out a little too much with how many extra beastmen. I suspect that was probably just who was available to score at a given.
It was mentioned by Hiroshia that this is one of the 2 teams that has already played this week. But even with that extra game of development, it's looking really good. And in particular, since you mentioned it, the spread it around, this team is doing something that I often see Chaos coaches not do that I think they should. and that is it has not picked an early ball carrier.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of going for something like extra arms, sure hands on a beast. Or I'd like to see, like he has done, get 4 or 5 beast levels in, and see if you luck into an Agi or something, and then make that your dedicated ball carrier. Because
Exactly.
there's nothing worse on a team like Chaos is getting a plus Agi as like a 4th skill on someone who's not a ball carrier, and now you've got to decide, all right, do I actually make the plus Agi my ball carrier because that's what you'd like, when you've got an extra arms, 2 heads, sure hands beast or something
Yeah.
that you built with all normals, and now is that beast just useless and bloat?
Exactly. And not only that, but I'm of the opinion that block is a more useful skill on a ball carrier than extra arms or sure. Well, sure hands is more debatable. That depends more on the matchup. Still, I think block in general is the most useful skill to have on a ball carrier, at least on a bashy team like Chaos. With a really agility focused team, there you don't necessarily need it, but with Chaos, your ball carrier is probably going to need to take some hits. Either give them or take them, at least occasionally.
Yeah, I think you take sure hands. If you don't luck into Agi, you'll take sure hands on one of these beasts. I'm okay with doing what he's done and waiting until it's the 5th or 6th level up to do that. Because even if you don't make that beast your carrier, you're going to want it for matches like elves and rats where one bad pickup and they're just going to run past you and score.
Yeah, that's fair. Although, like, I don't think it's the end of the world to take it on a level 3 level up, like taking on a player who already has block instead of taking it fresh. But also, like, that's fair. It is very matchup dependent. It's something where you look at the teams you have playing up and you go, do I need sure hands? If not, more block. If yes, okay, I should probably take it now.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to look for things like Wood Elves with a strip ball War Dancer would be the classic one where you're going to want sure hands or you're just never going to have the ball. Okay. Same thing with gutter runners that go early, wrestle, strip ball, that sort of.
And stunty. Although you might want to take the block against them anyway. Okay. Any last thoughts?
No, I think it's a good start to a team.
And I think it's a good start, and also it's a start that shows that Incesticide knows what he's doing for building this team. Also, the name game here is again strong. And we have Endless Nameless, we have Negative Creep, we have Beeswax, we have Downer, Mexican Seafood, Shredding, Slaughtered, Refuse. Yeah, the name game is still pretty strong here. Next up, we have WRU, Slan FC, We Are Frogs. Yeah, okay. I can't argue with that. And it's named after video game frogs. I love it. Well, not all video game frogs. Also, I'm pretty sure Toad is not actually a frog, but you know, whatever.
And we see one half of the Kislev debate, which is, do you take the bear or not? We decided not to go with the bear.
Nope. But what he did do is he went with all 4 catchers.
Yeah, this is. I'm not opposed to this style. A lot of people will say they want the bear early because it gives you that big strength presence, and the bear, being a clone of the Crocs, is the best big guy in terms of has the least bad nega trait and some of the better stats. But I'm of the opinion that Kislev teams want to drop the bear if they do take it at some point anyway. It serves some purpose early if you decide you want it, but similar to, like, say, a Rat Ogre on Skaven, it wears out its welcome based on how the team actually plays. And most of the time, as the team gets developed, it's just going to be sitting in the middle somewhere, ideally tying up a couple of players, maybe.
I would actually say the opposite. I think the bear is best on Kislev after it has been after the team is developed. It's more similar to the orc troll, where it's not very good early on, but if you have it like a fully developed orc team that also has a developed troll, but you never have to use the troll until it gets to that point, like, I mean, that's sort of the catch with that player, and I think it's sort of the catch with the bear as well. A developed bear is good on a developed Kislev team, but any other combination of bear and team is not so great.
See, and I feel like the bear becomes bloat, because the one thing about Kislev is you need a lot of skills on a lot of, and so a developed Kislev team is going to be expensive, and I don't think the bear gives you enough more when you're already into, and we're talking now like 16, 17, 1800 TV range developed play. Right? I don't feel like the bear is going to give you anything at that TV range that you wouldn't just rather use other players for.
Yep, that's a fair call. Blitzers are so expensive that by the time you have a full roster of them and they're all developed and your catchers are all developed, you're not going to have a whole lot of space for anything else. Speaking of the blitzers, though, guard first.
That's certainly a choice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Genuinely, I don't know if that is good on Kislev or not.
It's also a 3-team reroll team, so you've got only one wrestle, no block. And you have the dodge on a couple of catchers, which is good. But so I play in clan, and I have a Kislev team in my clan, and he wins when he abuses the ridiculousness of it, which is kind of the catch-22 of Kislev in general. It's everything can leap is great, but it's gonna fail when you need it to. It's kind of like how it's hard to get a pair in poker, right? So I don't know. That could be matchup. Guard could be more useful if you're running into a lot of bash higher strength than you. I think block is probably the generic block on the blitzers is their generic first level, right? Because now you've got block, diving, tackle, and jump up. But they are your natural source for guard. I think they're going to get guard eventually anyway.
The other thing I can imagine is guard is quite good if you want to cage dive, and Kislev are always a 3+ away from cage diving. So I could see using it for that.
Ideally, though, for that, you want a double on a catcher. Because that's where you want your guard on a cage dive, because the catchers can make the better leap in.
Yep, that's fair. And I don't know if this is bad. It might be really good. But I think it's interesting. That's why I think we're both focusing on it. I think that the core of the team is definitely the catchers, and this build says to me, yes, I know that the catchers are the important part. Let's do fun stuff with the catchers.
Yep, and it looks like, unfortunately, a lot of linemen MVPs.
Well, yeah, that's a little unfortunate, but it happens sometimes. And honestly, I can think of worse linemen to get level ups on.
That is Kislev. Every piece is going to be a positional in some sense. So
every player on this team can cage dive on a 3+.
It'll be interesting to see how this team pans out. I don't know very many Kislev coaches in ReBBL in general, so I don't have any other than maybe Superfit, I think, plays them, right?
I know Crusader is playing them as well.
And it's not a team I have much experience playing against, so it'll be interesting to see how it does.
Yeah, I'm sort of in a similar boat to you, if I'm being honest. It's high on my list of fun teams that I want to try, but also it's far enough away from my usual playstyle that it's hard for me to break into it. So I have a closing thought on this one, and that is to simply say that this team has 8 DK in the bank. I think after their next game, if they don't take any player losses, they will probably buy their 4th reroll.
Possibly. I think the reroll count's going to depend on how they're playing. If you're going leap heavy and kind of throwing everything on it, which a lot of new Kislev teams will do because that's kind of their thing. I could see you going for a 4th team reroll. But if you're playing them as not as aggressive, I don't know that you need it. Especially going with the 4 catcher build. Now you're looking at a lot of 2+s, a lot of 2+ action. Whereas the more standard build would be something like a bear and 1 catcher, 2 catchers, right? And so now all of your leaps are 3+s and everything is more risky, and that, to me, those are the teams that need the extra. I could see a scenario in which this team and how it plays doesn't need 4 rerolls. And if you can get away with not going 4 rerolls, that does a lot to cut down on bloat, especially early. But they're going to have the same kind of problem that an early Chaos team has, which is you've got no defensive skill until you level pieces up. So 1 in 9 blocks. Lots of ways for dice to go wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. At the very least, I think it'll be something to watch out for. Moving on. Our next team of the night is the Thunderous Puffins. Wait. I thought Hindus was in G-Man. Or is it Hindi? I always get those two mixed up. Anyway.
This is neither.
Lightning, born on adorable wings, the Thunder, coached by Voyager 1. These are I almost said pro elves. No, they're high elves. And there is a Agi 5 Blitzer.
Always a good start. Also picked up guard on a line elf. Also a good start. Also appear to be down a bunch of players, which is an unfortunate start for high elves. Usually a little bit more safer of an elf team. I think they're down to 9 already?
I don't know. I'd say that they're 1 catcher short from all of the players that they need.
Yeah, I just mean he's taken some losses in the few games he's played, which is a little unusual for high elves compared to something like wood elves or Skaven or these early teams without much mighty blow. Armor 8 usually holds up, although it looks like he maybe had a second catcher rostered and lost it, if that's the way he's got it sorted.
Yeah, it does look like that might be the case. I wonder if we can check statistics on that. 2 deaths sustained. So this team had a bloody greenhorn. But it is elves, so you know, if they can do elf shit, elf bull, I mean, again,
yeah, it's the curse of high elves, right? So of all the elf teams, you start with the least starting skill, and you're a little expensive. And so the trick is getting your catchers leveled to a point where they dominate because they're amazing pieces. And so early games are always going to be a little rough because you are going to be doing all sorts of naked 1-die moves where you have to use team rerolls. You're not going to have very many blocks with block because, well, you're going to take your blitz with your blitzer. Anything else is going to be naked. So a lot of ways for you to lose rerolls early. You're also slow for an elf team, generally speaking. I mean, your catchers have good movement, but your line elves are all movement 6, your throwers movement 6, and your blitzers are only movement 7. So it takes a little bit extra. It's not like wood elves or Skaven, one misplay by your opponent and suddenly you're on the complete opposite side of the pitch from them and there's nothing they can do. So like I said, that's why I say it's a little unfortunate that you lose a couple players in your first couple of games, but that is kind of the curse of high elves, is can you armor hold up long enough for you to get the development you need to turn into a monster, which high elves absolutely will become a monster at high TV.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that before on the receiving end. But yeah, like, it looks okay so far. apart from the parts that died.
I mean, the
Um,
level ups are good so far.
and I think the season will probably be. Do I want to say the season will be less bloody than the Greenhorn? I do not want to say that. The season will. If Voyager, if you are out there and listening to this, I think you can really do well with this team. Okay. Watch out for murder teams though, because there are some in your division.
Yeah, I think this is a couple of games away from being really getting to its group. Could use another level on the blitzer. Could use block on the guard lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, any and all catcher development. The downside, or the thing that you got to watch out for, is too much development on the catchers, because it's really easy for them to just suddenly get all of your touchdowns. Kind of similar to how wood elf catchers are.
And
So you do kind of have to force yourself not to just score on him all the time.
honestly, I think it's not necessarily in the case of high elves where they get 4 catchers. I don't think it's even a bad thing for the catchers to eat up all of the touchdowns or most of them. But you do need to make sure you give some to your blitzers, and you need to make sure your thrower levels up, especially the thrower. Actually, if you don't have a good thrower, then your team is dead in the water. Uh, okay. Anything else to close us out before we move on?
No, I think we're ready for the next one.
Okay. The next one, of course, is Big Maz Blitzers, coached by Jermiza Jora. No team motto, which I'm always a little bit disappointed to see. Okay, so here's my advice to you. Put in a team motto here. Here is my follow-up advice if you do not want to follow my original advice. Put your contact information in here, as that is quite useful for everyone you're playing against. So in my case, that would probably be my Discord handle or maybe my Reddit handle. However, the best way to contact you is, you can put it in here. But anyway, let's look at this team. These are default names, aren't they? That's a little disappointing. No, but these are not. Are they? I don't know. Look, these names are weird. This is a rookie team, though.
This is a team that I think had its Crocs die, is my guess.
Let's see. It did.
Statistics say somebody died, and based on the composition, I gotta assume it was the Crocs. So step 1 is going to be buying the Crocs back.
Yeah, that seems probable. Only 2 Greenhorn games as well. So came in halfway through the Greenhorn, then got the Croc dead. But you stuck with the team, and I think that says a lot about the caliber of this coach. Jerzima Jora? I'm gonna shorten that to Jora. No, there are a lot of coaches, I think, who would have had that Crocs die and then immediately just re-rolled their team on the spot. I'm playing a fresh team in ReBBL, but this coach actually stuck to it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of games for him, depending on his opponents. I think Chaos early would be bad, because they're one of the teams that would take advantage of the fact that he's missing some of his strength. Against stuff like the Elves, it's less bad because they're just going to ignore the Crocs anyway, or maybe stick a lineman on it all game. I do think, absolutely, I mean, he's got 3 team rerolls, he's got his Apothecary. His next purchase has got to be the Crocs as soon as he can afford it. There's no question there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just try and get some development on your Source. I see you got a Source MVP in one of his 2 games. It's always nice to... That's going to be the other hard part, is getting some development on the big guy to make them somewhat reliable and not just prone to having a line rat stuck on them all game. Not much else to say, really. And no development on the team yet.
Yeah, it's a rookie team. It's a rookie coach. at least rookie to Rebel. Um, they clearly have some perseverance, which I hope serves them quite well. And you know what? Lizards are never a bad team. Even a completely rookie lizard team is still good. Is still a good team. It's just maybe not as good as a developed one, but still, it's good. So you know what? There's a chance here for it to succeed, and there's definitely a chance for it to develop.
Yeah, hopefully the Apothecary can keep him from losing any Saurus in the first 2 games. I think that's going to be the crux of what needs to happen. Is he needs those Saurus alive and being useful until he gets his Crocs back. The Skinks, okay, let's be honest here. Lizard team Skinks are useless unless they roll doubles or a stat up anyway. So you don't care if they die. And you don't really care if they score touchdowns. They're going to score touchdowns because that's what they do, but you're not going to care about the Skinks, and you shouldn't care about the Skinks. Not really. They're a necessary evil for your Lizardmen teams. So I think definitely hold on to that APO. Make sure those Saurus get out of the first few games without any major problems. I think his biggest problem out of all the teams we looked at is going to be the Chaos team to start. The Norse could be somewhat problematic, just depending on how the blocks go.
So there's one more thing I actually noticed here. This team has 6 fan factor, and it has only played 2 games. This team bought fan factor when it was made, which tells me that Jorah is indeed quite a new coach, because this is not the best choice for a new team. I don't advise. It's not a handicap or anything. I think you can. I still think you can do quite well this season. But this tells me that this is definitely a new coach.
What's the cost on Sibley? Do you know offhand?
It's over 200.
Yeah.
I think it's 310.
To me, the big thing with the extra fan factor, so okay, you're going to win fame rolls most of the time with this because you're going to have 5 more fan factor than most other teams, right? But if it comes at the cost of picking up the best star player in the game, that's an issue. I certainly wouldn't spend any more money on fan factor, coaching assistants, cheerleaders. They're not worth it. Let your fan factor even out from playing. It'll go up if you win. It'll go down if you lose. Not really a big deal.
Okay, so, Jorah, here is my advice for you, and actually to everyone in this division, well, everyone, period, but especially anyone in this division who's new to Rebel. We have another league called the ReBBL, which you cannot join now because you've joined this one. That is our rookie league, but it has its own Discord, which is full of coaches who are happy to give all sorts of advice for getting better at the game and developing your team. And I highly even if you never play a game over there, I highly recommend you go over there. I, as an experienced coach with years behind me, still regularly get help by going over there and asking questions. So seriously, I highly recommend it. And on that note, I think we can move on. The next team is the Exqueakables Rat, coached by Hiro Shia, who I believe I saw in chat, and I think is the other coach who played. Yeah, they're the other coach who played their match this week. And what unholy abomination am I looking at?
2 movement 10 gutter runners. I don't have anything else. I'm a rat coach. That's great. I don't have anything else to say.
Well,
one of them is going to be a one-turner. I would suggest not building both of them as one-turners, oddly. You can get a lot out of movement 10 on other positions. Certainly you're going to build one as a one-turn, 127%, because that's what you do with your 4th gutter runner if you get the choice.
Plus,
you could build both of them as one-turners. I think that would be a mistake. Even though you're likely to lose one of them at some, I think that you need So, classic Skaven teams, you need 3 gutter runners on. You need someone who strips the ball, gets the ball on the ground, someone who recovers the ball, and then someone who scores. Your 4th gutter runner, in my opinion, is kind of extra. Usually he's going to be built as a backup to your sacker gutter runner because that's the one that's going to die the most. Because it's going to fail a cage dive, get fouled to death. So having a 4th gutter runner built as a 1-turner is fine because he's your extra one, and he's going to spend most of offense or most of defense on the bench if you can afford to get up to 12 players. And he'll play turn 8, and he might play offense because you'll be down rats, but he'll be like the back corner of your cage, and you'll never get him touched if you can help. So I would look at building one of them as a 1-turner, and I would strongly consider building the other either as a ball carrier or as a sack. Because I am someone who picked up a movement 10 on his sacker rat, but as level 6, so I can't build him into a 1-turner. But he's still a monster because now I have a strip ball, wrestle, tackle rat that can hit you from basically half the pitch away. And there are a lot of teams that just can't deal with that.
Plus, at the end of the day, it's not that hard to get a single push if it's all you need to 1 turn.
Yep, and this is another recommendation is pick up something like Juggernaut as a 3rd or 4th skill on one of your vermin if it rolls only. Because then it's basically impossible to stop you from getting one push on a 1-turn attempt. And also, Juggernaut is a great undervalued skill, especially on because it lets you do things like hit stand firm players and push them away on a boat down instead of having to dodge away. And so it helps keep your blitzer pieces, your killer pieces from getting stuck on things. So the other thing you're going to look at, so ideally, Vermin, you want to roll double. You want Claw. When he rolls Claw, you're going to get him Kill Stack, Mighty Blow, Piling On. Although you can skip Piling On, I wouldn't because this team, Skaven are really, really, really good against teams like Dwarves if you can cut a couple of them out. So if it gets Claw, go Mighty Blow Piling On. If they don't roll Claw, I'm not a fan of Piling On. I only take it when I'm ready to recycle that vermin to try and get him Claw as, faster levels. If he gets to level 4 on normals, he starts running out of useful stuff to take. The other thing you're going to look at is how much guard you're going to want to take on them and where you're going to want it. So until you roll Claw, I'm of the opinion you need to build the vermin both as killers in the hopes that one of them rolls Claw on a level up and can continue the kill train, which means you're going to take Mighty Blow as a first skill. You're going to take Tackle on one of them as a second skill, maybe even both of them. You're going to push off guard early. But you can absolutely build a Storm Vermin as a support vermin and give it things like guard and stand firm. I just think that it's so important to get Claw on your vermin that you need to be built for that capability as soon as it comes up. Once you have it, then you can look at other options.
Well, if they didn't believe you when you said you were a rat coach at the beginning, I think they definitely do now.
I've played rats for a long time.
That was a very in-depth explanation that I think almost went over my head in a few places. So probably perfect for people who actually play agility teams. There are 2 things I want to mention here before we move on. The first one is, once again, great names here. I love them. I love them all. You have the Expendables, except they all have cheese puns or rat puns. I think or food puns. Look, they're the Expendables, but with pun names. It's perfect. Also, there are only 11 players on this team. It has no bench right now. I think I checked, and it has had 1 death, presumably a line rat. And I think the only thing it really needs, other than just generally make its gutter runners hideous monsters, which is well on the way to doing already, is to hire some more line rats to pad that bench.
That's a hard call. I actually think he lost a gutter runner. I believe I looked at the stats for this one.
Oh.
I believe that Sylvester Stilton 2.0 is a replacement gutter.
That would make sense.
And it looks like maybe he lost a lineman earlier as well. But that's a hard call because early rats, you're gonna lose. See, you're gonna win games because you're gonna put your rookie gunners in places you wouldn't normally put your gunners, and let them get hit every once in a while, and you're gonna lose one here and there as a result of that, because you don't have the skills necessary to threaten as well. So you need to be better positioned to take advantage of opportunities that come up. So I'm of the opinion that you actually want to hold cash as rat. Build up so that if you do unfortunately lose a gutter runner or lose a storm vermin, you have the cash on hand to replace them immediately. And then once you get up to having that amount of free cash and you get into that 130, 140 bankroll, then you can look at picking up extra linemen to pad out your bench. The downside with rats with armor value 7, even if you run 12 player, chances are most games you're going to be playing with loners anyway, because you're going to have miss next games all over the place. Linemen are going to get hurt. You're never going to APO them. The thrower might get hurt. You probably shouldn't APO him either. I don't mind taking a thrower to start. I think there becomes a point at which your thrower becomes an expensive line rat and should be treated as such. But in the beginning, sure hands is nice, especially when dealing against elves. Eventually, you're probably going to want to build a gutter runner as a ball carrier, and he'll double as your pickup gutter runner. So he's the one who gets the ball when it hits the floor, one way or the other. So in an ideal world, that's plus agi, sure hands, etc. But until then, having a thrower isn't the worst idea. I'm just of the opinion that when the thrower dies, you just replace him with one. Because one of the other big benefits to Skaven is they're a cheap team. You can have a lot of skills at 1400 TV, and Skaven with a wizard in hand is one of the hardest teams to play in Blood Bowl. Play against, I mean. Because if they can put the ball on the ground whenever they want, the gutters are insane. They're probably the best player in Blood Bowl, especially when they roll stats. And having 2+ movements is a great start.
I would say that they're the most cost-effective player in Blood Bowl.
I'm biased. I think they're the best.
Well, that's debatable. Like they are definitely in the top 3 players, I would say. But among the top 3, they are easily the most cost efficient.
Yes, you can have some really monster gutter runners at about 200k. All right, I think I'm out of things to talk about for rats.
Well, that's good, because our next team is not a rat team. It is the Meat Squad, coached by Runs, medium rare, and it's a Chaos Dwarf team. And this team looks like it played just a single game in the Greenhorn.
Yep. No level ups to speak of. Unfortunate MVP on a Hobgoblin. Never really want to see that. But the only real thing I have for Chorfs is the discussion for me is always, do you carry the ball on a Hobgoblin or do you carry the ball on a Bull Centaur?
The answer is that you do both. At least that's my answer. You're right, it is a very hotly debated topic. I am personally in favor of carrying on the Bull Centaurs. It is the best way to get them leveled up quickly, which means they get better faster. But also, as weird as it is, it being a agility 2 player, the Bull Centaur is the most natural ball carrier on the team. It's the hardest one to take the ball from, and it's also the fastest player.
Yeah, I'm also of the opinion that you build a Bull Centaur as a ball carrier to take the other side of the argument. The people will recommend carrying on a Hobgoblin because it frees your Bull Centaurs to take ideal level ups. Because the thing is they don't have block. They're both going to want block. They're both going to want break tackle, because if they don't have break tackle, they're going to get stuck on things. Those are pretty much the universal first 2 level ups on a Bull Centaur. That's not going to be your ball carrier, because your ball carrier you're going to give shorter hands to, usually. Because at Agi 2, getting them off of things is very hard. And so with Agi 3, your Hobgoblin is a more natural carrier compared to other teams. So you give him sure hands and block, and he's basically the same as most other Agi 3 ball carriers. So that's kind of the argument in the other direction. The flip side of that is that your natural blitzer is going to be a blocker at some point, because the first double blocker roll you get is going to be claw, and then he's going to be your killer, which means he's going to be your natural blitzer most of the time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Bull centaurs cannot take claw, which means as soon as you get it, you want to hit. You want to use claw every single turn against 20 out of 24 teams. I'm gonna say, 18 out of 24 teams in Blood Bowl. You're gonna want to use your claw player every single turn. And Chaos Dwarves, they get a claw player. Usually, they're lucky if they get more than one.
Blockers are hard to level up. They're slow. They're kind of like dwarf blockers.
Exactly, like dwarf blockers. In fact, only with mutation access.
So yeah, it's slow level up. So the other decision point is going to be how much Mighty Blow versus how much guard you take on the blockers as they. Some people will go all Mighty Blow. Some people will go first Mighty Blow and then kind of cycle in guard. I don't know. You're a dwarf coach. What's your opinion? Because longboards are kind of the same.
Okay, so I think the correct way to do it with Chaos Dwarves is actually different than with longbeards. If you're playing dwarf regular, I am of the opinion that you should always take guard first on every single longbeard except maybe one. With Chaos Dwarves, that is not the case. You only get 6 of them. And you eventually will get roll double on one of them. So it's much better to stagger it. So the thing that I like to do is alternating between Mighty Blow and Guard. Ideally, of course, you roll Claw on a first level up on a Chaos Dwarf. But bearing that, it's much better to have Claw on a Dwarf that already has Mighty Blow than it is to have one on who only has guard. The Mighty Blow also helps you level up faster, which is important because you only have 6 of these guys, and they are not going to level up from anything other than killing usually. So you want to get level ups on them as quickly as you can, and that means taking Mighty Blow.
And then with the Hobbs, I imagine it's similar to Line Rats, which is you take Dirty Player and then they die. Unless you don't like Dirty Player. That's kind of my opinion on Hobgoblins. Hobgoblins are there to foul things that hit the ground, provide assists every once in a while. If you want to build one into a ball carrier, sure, go ahead.
But
otherwise, I just don't see them like Line Rats. You have the same kind of thing. So hey, it'd be great if they could all have guard and block or get wrestle and things on them, but they're weak. Their armor is flimsy, and so they die. And you don't want to bother saving them. And I feel like Hobgoblins are in the same boat. You don't like they're there to die, and they're gonna die. So you're gonna get one skill on them most of the time, maybe, right?
I do think you should make one Hobgoblin a ball carrier. Even if you are doing a bull carry, you want a backup ball carrier who is a Hobgoblin who has sure hands. You 100% you want that Hobgoblin. There is also an argument for taking Wrestle on one Hobgoblin simply for setting up fouls. Every other Hobgoblin should be taking Dirty Player and be dead before they get a chance to take a second level up. Maybe kick if you're really desperate after you've taken Dirty Player.
Dirty Player kick. Absolutely. Like kick is one of those that I wouldn't pick on a Hobgoblin unless it was on a Dirty Player. Because then you can play him on defense, kick the opening kick, and then he can foul and you don't care that your kick is sent off.
It's the same logic.
Same thing with Line Rats.
Yeah, or zombies. Okay.
So yeah, he's short a blocker, which I assume is going to be his first purchase. But other than that, looking pretty good.
I think that's a safe assumption. It looks like they went for the 2 Bull, 5 Chaos Dwarf starting build, and I think they just didn't roll very well on their winnings. They only keep in mind they've only played a single greenhorn game. Uh so yeah, that's what it looks like to me. But yeah, I want to see how this team develops. Once again, good naming scheme. I like it. I Nice internal consistency as well. The bull centaurs are the good cow meat. The chaos dwarves are all chefs, and the hobgoblins are junk meat. Okay. Last of all, we have the Thompsons. We live on a boat by Terror Lake, coached by Ferguson. Wait a second. Is that, you know, no, I'm never mind. This is this a rookie team? This is a rookie team.
This is the rookie team, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to say that you got put into a division with a bunch of greenhorn teams. You were the extra person, it seems. Uh is is this a new coach as well? I'm not sure.
I do not recognize the coach name personally, so I assume so.
I'm gonna just I actually really want to know. So I am gonna check if I can figure out how. Um okay. Quick, talk about the things while I'm looking up this person.
All right, well, not much to talk about. So, build, he went with a thrower, no catcher. No apothecary, which is not uncommon. He's got 40k in the bank at a 960 TV. First pickup is going to be apothecary at the end of game one, and then you'll probably buy into at least one catcher after that, I would think.
Okay, so I looked it up, and this is indeed a new coach. So I can only assume that the admins drew straws and you were the unlucky draw. But honestly, I think this is probably the least developed greenhorn division.
It is the last greenhorn division, yes.
Exactly.
So it was all of the teams that played less than the full allotment of games. So you are going to be behind, but it's 1 to 3 games on average behind. It's not a huge ask, I don't think.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe that chaos team.
And this is a human team as well, so it can do well with relatively low TV. Like, humans are very TV efficient, or they can be at least. And and often that means in this case being that they're good out of the box.
Yeah, not much to say. Obviously, you're going to want to get levels on your blitzers. They're going to be your... the ogre's going to do things sometimes. And the linemen are basically your ideal linemen. They're only 50k. They got armor 8. They're going to stand around and get hit and maybe occasionally foul something.
Well, my ideal lineman is a hobgoblin, but next to that, human linemen look pretty good. The other thing I noticed is that there's no catcher. I know that not everyone likes the human catcher, but I am personally a fan of it. I like it that it has 8 movement, and you can do a lot with that. And having agility access on a team like humans is also pretty useful. But also, I'm not the most expert human player, so maybe that's not the best choice. I'm not sure.
I generally am of the opinion you don't start with a catcher, and they are your first player pick.
Okay, that's...
The extra movement is nice, but taking one means that now you have to play around half. Whereas with the standard 4 blitzer setup, you can play a standard Agi 3 game with this. You're going to be a little bit more bash heavy on that bash side of the hybrid, we'll call it, because humans are a hybrid team. But there's nothing wrong with that, and you certainly can be effective at that. You're going to have a little bit of trouble with the standard bash teams until you get your strength, or your guard to counter strength. So like this is the team, I think you're going to see Chaos is going to give it problems. But against a fairly rookie, say, Chorf team, I think it'll match up just fine
Mm-hmm.
because they'll be able to throw linemen at all the Chorfs, and then the Chorfs will just sit there and thump on linemen all game, and
Mm-hmm.
it won't matter.
And you
And
only have 2 less block than the Chorfs.
right, and you've got enough skills, and the Ogre is, like I said, the Ogre's a great big guy for humans
Mm-hmm.
because he's armor 9, so you can set him in the middle of the scrum. He's strength 5 for when you absolutely need that little bit of extra. And if he boneheads, it's kind of an oh well kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
The blitzer development is going to be key. It's going to be you're in kind of a bash heavy division. I would think you're probably going to want to go guard on 2 of them. Mighty blow on the one that you decide is going to be your primary blitzer every turn. And then it's kind of I think it's kind of flexible from there. They're all going to end up with things like guard, mighty blow, and tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
In some combination, in some order of your preference.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, I would probably go mighty blow on the first blitzer that levels, and then he's just the person that you're going to blitz with every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then my opinion is you would take guard on the next 2, because 1 guard is great, and 2 guard you can do a lot with. In terms of if you get really good with your placement, 2 guard can do a lot for.
Mm-hmm.
And then your 4th blitzer, it's kind of your whatever skills in the stack that you don't. You might take tackle first if you don't have tackle and you're playing some dodgy elves. You might take mighty blow first to give you a second mighty blow blitzer to try and level them faster. You can go all guard if you want and take 3 guard blitzers off the bat. That's not a bad call either, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The best thing about humans, there's a lot of ways you can go with the blitzers, and they're all correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think that all sounds good. And one last time, good naming. Good names. You've done it. You have succeeded in the only thing that matters. You have named your team well. And your players. Your team and players. It's a combo. Okay, let's take a quick look at the matches for this next week, and then I think we are done for the night. First up, of course, there was a game that's already been played. We will not be looking at that until next week. So the first game that has not been played, the Thunderous Puffins versus the Thompsons.
So, High Elves versus humans. In the odd scenario where the High Elves outguard the humans. But the humans are going to get 140k in inducements. And they're going to be out-strengthening and out-blocking otherwise. So that Agi-5 Blitzer is going to be, I think, the key to that game. Agi-5 can do Agi-5 things, and you always need to be aware. And so if you're not used to playing agility teams, and especially plus agility teams, the trick is if you leave a ball uncovered or you leave a ball carrier exposed, he's capable of being hit. And it's not that hard of a dice, even if he's got to make dodges through things, generally. So that's kind of the what you have to be aware of on offense is you need to make sure you're protecting the ball. You're going to want to play KG. They don't have any kind of sacking threat. There's no wrestle on the team. There's no tackle. There's no strip ball. Those sorts of skills. So in order to break through your cage, he's going to have to punch his way through like anybody else would. And humans, you play that kind of cagey running game. You're not going to do a whole lot of throwing. I mean, you have the thrower, but throwing with him is kind of a last ditch, only in a case of an emergency when everything's gone bad kind of option for humans. I think that's going to be the focus is keeping the ball safe against that Agi. Both teams being armor 8, I don't expect, and no mighty blow anywhere, so I don't expect the armor breaks to really, or removals to really tell the tale. I mean, if someone gets some lucky early removals, it could be a big deal. But I think this is going to come down to KG movements versus elf script.
If I may be a little bit more reductionist, I think this matchup at this development level actually favors the humans, if only slightly. But having said that, I think what it will ultimately come down to is the experience levels of the coaches. As he said, this will be a very cagey game, and I think the coach who is who in this new division is most comfortable playing in that sort of game is the one who is most likely to win this match. I cannot guess as to which one that is, but yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna favor the humans.
I'm gonna throw in with the elves because Agi5 doing Agi5 thing.
Okay, I can understand that. Next we have Big Maz Blitzers versus WRU Slan FC. Well, I mean, it has to go to the Kislev, right? Like, there's no contest here.
Yeah, the only thing that Kislev is lacking for this matchup is tackle, but I think they're going to get 3 dies on this game.
Also, block or any defensive skills whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like the lack of skills on the Saurus is going to be the biggest problem. The Saurus are going to get tied up. Like the Kislev are just going to throw linemen at them and make them remove armor 8 linemen, right? Because that's what I would do. Because once the Saurus are marked, they're not going anywhere. And the Skinks aren't good players by themselves. So I expect that between being able to mark up the Saurus and with the leap plays with the catchers, I think you're going to force Lizards into an early score. I don't think Lizards are going to have the opportunity to play a strong KG, just kind of slowly waltz their way down the pitch. And if they try that, I think you're going to get some leap hits on Skinks and balls are going to come loose, and then it's anybody.
Yeah, I think that's
on the flip side. 100% this game could go. The Saurus could just remove a bunch of stuff, and then the Lizards just crush.
Yeah.
The leaps could all fail.
Yeah,
because Kislev.
That did occur to me, but assuming that the Lizards don't get lucky removals, I think that was a good summary. But of course they could get lucky removals, and then the Lizards would have a definite advantage if they did.
And the Lizards are going to get a fair amount of inducements. Looks like about 130k.
And you know what? Actually, also worth mentioning, I think this is a matchup where the Crocs doesn't matter that much. So this is a good time to get the Kislev, simply because it gives you more time before you need the Crocs to replace it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. A Kislev with no bear, they would just ignore the Crocs, or like the rest of the Saurus, mark it in such a way that it's not doing anything.
Okay, and last of all, we have Meat Squad versus Hella's Kitchen. And I mean, it's going to be Hella's Kitchen. Like, I think the favor of this division for both of us, like, no, favorite is wrong. I definitely like some of these teams better than you know what? I've put my foot in my mouth, so I'm just going to shut up now.
Okay. I do agree. I think the Norse is better positioned to take this. The Chorfs being down a blocker is a big deal. It's going to come down to whether the Chorfs get the armor breaks on the linemen or not. If they don't, I feel like this is an easy matchup where the Chorfs are just going to get bogged down, and lack of any kind of straight kill potential. I mean, Armor 7 can go completely terribly wrong on any given game. Mighty Blow can also be a fake skill sometimes. So I think it's going to come down to, per usual with early Norse games, can the armor hold up? I think, you know, with having the Yeti, with the Ulfs, with the strength of Berserker, I think the Bash game is favoring the Norse for this matchup.
The Norse will outstrength the Chaos Dwarves, and the Chaos Dwarves don't have any guard to deal with it yet.
Yeah, and you know, the Chaos Dwarves tackle, it doesn't matter. There's no dodge in play. I do think this matchup favors Norse just generally for those reasons. It's definitely a matchup Chaos Dwarves would rather get later when they've got some guard to help.
Spaceline is going to be fishing for claw hits to get the level up on the Yeti as well.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. This is going to be a rough one for the Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah. They still have the chance, but I think advantage here is definitely in Spaceline's corner.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be trying to keep your AV9 pieces away from the Yeti, or hoping that he just wild animals a lot, because there will be games where the Yeti will just be you. He obviously, Claw doesn't have Mighty Blow, which is good for you, but still, Claw hits on armor value 9 are better than Mighty Blow hits on armor value 9 in terms of the math on how often they break. So,
For that matter, sometimes you can just sacrifice a goblin to a Yeti. Like, they're not important.
Another consideration there is it's 70% to uphill that Yeti when it doesn't have block, meaning 70% will either put it on the floor or push it away on a half die. It's essentially the odds of not rolling a skull on one of your 2 dice.
70% will not result in a turnover. So yeah, I think we're done. Do you feel that?
The only other thing to talk about is a quick note. So like I mentioned, I am the admin for this div. So if you guys need anything from the admin staff or aren't going to be able to make a game, what have you, go ahead and shoot me a Discord message is the easiest way to get a hold of me if you have questions. Otherwise, this is an 8-team div, so there will be a Swiss at the end. So you'll play everybody in the div once, which would be 7 rounds. And then I believe it's going to be a 4-round Swiss. And then after that, this div will play for the 2-round play-ins for playoffs with the rest of the lettered divs. So that's how this div is going to play out, how your games are going to play out. So there's a decent chance that you're going to play most of your div twice. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, and specifically, if you're doing well, you're going to play the other people that are doing well, and if you're doing poorly, you're going to play the other people that are doing poorly. So no matter what, you are going to be, for that last part, you're going to be matched against players who are performing similarly to you. Oh, and actually, I have one final note. Normally, it is custom in the recap community to do a mid-season review to see where everyone is at. Since this division is special, we will probably be waiting a couple of weeks later than normal for that. We will still be doing it. It's just, it might come a little bit later than normal.
Yeah,
you have been
warned.
warned.
The natural place is going to be at the end of the round robin phase, so week 8
as opposed to week 6 or 7. That's what I was thinking as well. So on that note, I think we're done. Once again, I've been Chaos Baloo.
I'm NinjaPirateAssassin.
And have good games, everyone. Bye.